Welcome to episode 3 of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel. This is a podcast about Chicago Bears talk by a Chicago Bears fan. And today I want to look at the offensive side of the ball for this 2017 Bears team. So starting off with our offensive line, who we got there. We got an offensive line that's returning from last year for the most part as far as our starters. Cody Whitehair at center. He's a second year player. Really highly touted as a rookie last year, and then coming back this year with really high expectations. Who was a 5-position player in college, mostly at tackle, but then ended up making the move to center last year for the Bears. Then we got the two guards, Josh Sitton and Kyle Long, both with really long injury histories and have had trouble staying healthy. And then we got our two tackles, Bobby Massey, the free agent pickup from last year, who was a very below average to average player in Arizona, and Charles Leno Jr., who actually has been outperforming his status as a draft pick coming out of Boise State in the 7th round. But still overall just an average tackle. So the offensive line, last year, they didn't get a lot of love last year. And it was weird because Jordan Howard, who we'll get to, was number 2 in the league in rushing, and he didn't even start as the starting back. He came in a little later into the season and finally took over the workload. So to have that many yards in that amount of time and no one give credit to the offensive line was weird for me last year. But I think most people focus on the pass protection. And while the interior was pretty decent, the tackles are always going to get all the spotlight when it comes to pass protection because those are the ones that make money. And the Bears actually did decide to pay our tackles good money. So that's the area that everybody wanted to focus on. And then coming into this year, it's just been injury problems. So we've seen Tom Compton, a swing lineman. We've seen Haranis Grasu, our backup center, who was originally going to be the starter, but has really just shown to be very ineffective in pass protection. He's a good zone run blocker, but that's kind of where it stops for him. And then, so we're seeing a different combination of backup offensive linemen, and the Bears never really had an actual tackle. If you looked at the Bears coming into the season, they decided to go with all these with a couple swing linemen that could play different positions. Now, Eric Cush, who was supposed to be the main backup center, which gave flexibility for Whitehair to play guard and whatnot, he was lost for the year before the season started. So there you go there. Now looking at our wide receiver core, oh man. You know what? I actually think the wide receiver core isn't as terrible as people would say. I think, they're definitely bottom of the league, but I think what really hurts us too is some of our play calling. But we got Cam Meredith, number 1, who went down in the preseason and we lost him for the year, who was really due to make a breakout season, I think. While he definitely started off at a good pace because he was kind of the third option with some other good receivers around him, he showed that as we lost Alshon and as, you know, we lost other people to injury, that he could do it as a number 2 or number 1. And so this was his year to prove that he was a number 1. Kendall Wright, I still think is a really good slot receiver. I don't think he's the best, but I really think the quarterback play hasn't helped him. He's quick, he's smart, he knows how to sit in zone, and he's a good route runner. And then we got Marcus Whedon, who got money in the free agency as well with Kendall Wright, who just has not been healthy. And so he really has an incomplete. I can't say he's an F. He's more like an incomplete. We can't evaluate him because he really hasn't played. And when he has played, he hasn't been fully healthy. And then we got a host of people. We had Trey McBride, but now he's gone. We have Josh Bellamy, who's a special team ace, and that's why he's on the team. But he actually can get open pretty decently. He just has really bad hands. And then, you know, we've moved in a number of people, the Gentry off practice squad, you know, all these different things. And then Dontrell Inman comes in via trade, which was an interesting trade. He got injured last year, he got injured last year. So he wasn't, coming into this year as a starter for the Chargers, but he did have a pretty good year. And so, with Keenan Allen being healthy and whatnot, they just really figured that they didn't have to keep him. And so I think you got a decent value pick with him. He's shown that he has way more catch radius than any of our receivers, and he's a pretty solid route runner. He doesn't have next level speed or anything, but I think he can do well as a number 2 against Cam Meredith, if he comes back next year. So, tight ends, Zach Miller, unfortunately, might be done for his career. We all know that gruesome injury. But even before, he was not somebody we counted on, or I wouldn't count on, because of his injury problems throughout his years. And then you got Deion Sims, who was more of a blocking tight end from Miami, who does have some receiving ability, but just hasn't seemed comfortable in that role. And then Adam Shaheen, our rookie from a small school. He was really kind of I wouldn't say risky, but they took a chance with picking him that early. And we're waiting to see what he can do. Everyone wants to call him Baby Gronk because of his size and speed, but we haven't seen that on the field yet. Then we go to our running backs, Jordan Howard. Real surprise last year, 4th round pick out of Indiana, formerly of Alabama, Birmingham. He really, like I said, number 2 in the league, came out of nowhere, very north and south runner, with limited dynamics, but north and south runner. Then we got Tariq Cohen, the electrifying rookie that everybody lost their mind over the first few games and then realized, okay, he's only human. So that's where we are now. Looking at this offense overall, well, Trubisky, I could spend a long time talking about the quarterback, but we all know who Trubisky is. So looking at this offense overall, we're kind of plagued by play calling. And I think that's the number one thing, is that, as I said in previous episodes, you can get average or to below average players to look decent if you ask them to do the right things. And I do think Darryl Loggins, from what I know about him, is creative enough and smart enough, but I get the sense that it's John Fox not allowing him to coordinate. It's John Fox saying, this is my identity, this is what I want, where we get to the point. Trubisky had one game where only threw 7 passes. And I know everybody talks about that like it is the norm, and that's not true. But at the same time, there should never been a game when he only threw 7 passes. And so I think that's a result of John Fox dictating the scheme. And with our receivers, they're not especially fast. They're not great route runners outside of Kendall Wright. And so I don't think we get open when we run the basic, 1-2 West Coast stuff. I do think a lot of bunch formation, play action crossers, double moves, set up things. Those are the routes you need for receivers that aren't going to get open by themselves. And especially when you don't have any receivers with size that can just win a 50-50 ball. You gotta be creative. The one example I would say is Kyle Shanahan with the Falcons, where they say, he schemed players open. Now the Falcons receivers 10 times, 15 times, 20 times better than our receivers. But, the fact that there's ways to get your receivers open and to really target receivers is a true thing, and especially in the NFL with the bunch formations. But we just haven't seen a lot of that from our team. Now recently, the plays have become a little more spread, a little more friendly to Trubisky. But it's almost a little too late, because now you're really messing him up. Like, I think in order for him to just be effective, yes, you can start switching up the schemes, but you've been drilling one way into his head all year. Now they're trying to switch it from power run. And I don't know exactly how effective it's going to be. So, that's what we're dealing with right now. Now, going forward, I do think the offensive line, well, we know the tackles need to upgrade, but I think the offensive line in general is in a bad place. Kyle Long, as I've said before, he's hurt, but there's also something going on with him and the Bears team. I don't know if it's the staff, the owners, or what. It seems like he doesn't want to be here. And he's a tough guy. He's prideful, so he's going to play through injury. But from what I'm hearing, it's only making it worse. And so he's a liability. And when he's not in, then we got to move Whitehair and then bring Grasu in, and it just messes up the integrity. And Josh Sitton, he's good, but he's not the Pro Bowler he was last year. This is a guy who's up there in age, and I think he's kind of at the end of his rope. So not only are your tackles kind of really average, but now your interior, which was the strength last year, is really breaking down. And Cody Whitehair, even though he is good enough to play different positions, I don't think center's his position. His snaps are bad this year, and they've been bad all year. And since he was so good and got the accolades last year, people didn't want to bring it up. But his snaps have been bad this year. I think you got to start. He's good. He should be a guard. But you got to start really looking to retool this offensive line. Now, I know everybody's yelling, we got to get a receiver. We got to get a receiver. If we get Cam Meredith back healthy, if we get Dontrell Inman, and we bring Kendall Wright back as at a minimum, I think that's very passable with a good offensive line, a good running game, and a developed Trubisky. That's at minimum. I think even if you bring just Inman and Meredith back, there's ways to get rookies in here that could easily be dynamic. So you can add in different players that way. Yes, we need to upgrade the bottom of the receiving core, but it's not easy to go out there and just get a top receiver. It's not that simple. And so I just think you shouldn't put your energy in the draft trying to get a top flight receiver, because you got viable options here. I think what you should do is put most of your resources into retooling this offensive line, because at this point, I would say there's 4 out of the 5 offensive line positions that need to be filled. And so that's what I want to see the Bears attack going forward. I think Jordan Howard's pretty good. Cohen, I don't know. Cohen, I think he's really going to fall into that Tavon Austin, that DeAnthony Thomas, Dexter McCluster, those kind of gadget players. You can line them out wide. You can run them out deep down the field out of a bunch. You can jet motion, fake it, then jet give it to him, then jet play action. You can do all that with him, but he's not going to be a line up in the backfield and keep giving him the ball. I think he's going to be a tempo guy. So we really got to get a real running back that can complement Jordan Howard's power run game, and get somebody that's less of a slasher and more of a home run threat. And so that way we have 3 backs that can really rotate. Something like Philadelphia has with Jay Ajayi, with LeGarrette Blount, and then the rookie Clement. So I think that's where we want to go with that. And running backs are a dime a dozen. You don't got to put a lot of money in that. I think you'll be able to find a rookie or someone that can do that. Benny Hunningham, I guess he's a good vet and he's a decent returner, but no, I would move on from him and get in a more dynamic third back, to join the rotation. So yeah, I think the focus has to be on the offensive line. Now, the coaching and the play calling, that's a whole nother topic for a different day. So I'm just assuming Trubisky is moving in the right direction. The O-line is always going to help it, because right now his clock is sped up and he needs to get more time in that pocket. So that's where we're at right now with the offensive line. So, do me a favor. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about the offense. What's our best player? What's our worst player? Who should the Bears be? What group should they be targeting? And do me a favor. If you like the Bears talk, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, spread it around to your friends, trying to grow the channel. And, thanks for listening.